Okay, so this car is all done, just doing a few final checks. It needed regassing, and also the wheels. I'd put slightly different wheels on it, and just to sell it, basically, I put it back to the original wheels. But what did it cost to do, and was it worth it, really? So just to recap, this car developed a pretty nasty motor bearing noise, quite common on these. So this is a late 2016 ZE ZE40. Motor bearings are a weak point on these, and they are quite repairable, but finding someone to do the work can be a challenge. But it's one of the things I do. This was actually my wife's car, and she's got the ZE40 now. It's featured in a previous video. So but yeah, this is all done. So was it worth it? So costs first of all. So the actual bearings for the motor itself are about 25 quid each, the ones I fit. There's two bearings on it, one at each end of the rotor, and they're not the easiest to get hold of, but once you find them, the company's got them, and I get, about 4 or 5 at once of each kind of thing, 4 or 5 sets, then that's fine, and that cuts down the delivery and everything, so it makes it about 50 quid for motor bearings. So not too bad. On the motor, it's got a brush kit, because it's sort of externally excited, the rotor. It doesn't contain any magnets, as you'll know from previous videos. So that brush kit is really essential to change. It can cause faults on the motor controller if you don't change those brushes at the same time. That's about £110, that brush kit, so more expensive than the bearings. And also the other essential thing when you're doing the motor rebuild is there's a metal ring inside the position sensor, and it's just bare metal, and that can rust, and that's like 12 quid. So basically really wants doing at the same time. So we also put a steering rack on the car. The steering rack I actually had left over from another Zoe. It's one that I thought needed a rack, but actually it was just front suspension. But actually, as it turned out, the track rod ends were really in a bad condition on that car, so I borrowed the track rod ends, so like the bits that connect from the steering rack onto just behind the wheel. Yeah, so I had that rack because I just used the track rod ends off it. Just looking back, I bought that for £46. They don't suffer from any issues though, so there's quite a lot of them around. So yeah, that was fairly reasonable. So that basically got the car working, and it needed a tyre for the MOT, and tyre was 55 quid because they're a real common size. They have to be correctly EV rated. They don't have to be a specific EV tyre, but they have to be an XL weight rating, so the 91 is it, I think, but the XL reinforced tyre. But you can still get good rated budget ones that meet that, so that's fine. And then the MOT was 35 quid. So all of that to actually get the car working and MOT'd in terms of parts, kind of outlay costs, was £608, which is quite reasonable. But realistically, the biggest expense on this was time. So it's probably about 15 hours, this. So as you've probably seen, you've got to get this whole front end off, get the stack out, strip it all down, and that is a long job. So doing that motor stack out, and then putting it back in again, we're probably talking, that's a sort of 8 to 10 hours, something like that. And then you've obviously got to sort of strip that stack down, get the motor out, check it over, start taking it apart. That motor, 2-3 hours I'll probably spend rebuilding a motor, and I want to do it properly. It is a critical component, and I want it to be reliable. I want this to be a reliable car for someone, so we do that properly. So yeah, it's a sort of 15 hours now. This is what I do for a living, but I enjoy it as well. I don't sort of invoice myself for my hobbies. But realistically, if you're buying a car that's got a motor fault, you got to think about what that's going to cost you in labour. The car also, because it's high voltage, needs high voltage isolation, which isn't very long, but you just have to be a little bit switched on. I've obviously worked on a lot of Zoes. If the motor wasn't repairable, rebuildable, which they're about 50-50 when I strip a Zoe motor, whether I rebuild it or we don't, because it's got something concerning on it, then we would have to find another motor. So your sort of minimal costs on the motor, your brush kit, bearings and position sensor, that's about just over 170 quid, 172 quid. is then going to become, well, it's what you can find. Sometimes you have to buy a whole stack for a Zoe, which can be 1,000, 1,500 quid. So, yeah, I mean, for me, this was my wife's car. It wasn't drivable, it wasn't usable. And what's it worth then? Well, what is it worth? 500 quid, £1,000? It's battery lease as well, which is kind of good on a car because it's done 116,000. But yeah, it wasn't worth a lot. It's now worth, well, 3.5 grand, I reckon, something like that. I'm going to put it up for sale soon, so we'll see. But yeah, so it's definitely worth it for me to do it. But obviously, I'm not billing myself the labour, so it's something I already own and it's going to go up in value. But realistically, if you're going to buy it just to work on it, I think it depends on whether you can do the work yourself, to be honest, as to whether it's worth it. But yeah, that's what it took. Any questions, let me know. Hopefully that's interesting. I'll put a full video, the full video story of this one up shortly, because this is it. But yeah, I'm literally going to need a good wash, get it valeted, get the seats cleaned and everything, so it's all fully ready to go. I'll keep driving it round, keep charging it, keep using it, you know, just to make sure everything is good for the new owner. But yeah, this is ready to go. It's got a few sort of scrapes. It needs a good polish because it's got like a little scrape along, just about see, yeah, along there and stuff. Just normal stuff you get with any car, really. And it's got one where I reversed into a post. Beautiful. And then the bumper sort of deflected and it took that. I'll try and pull that out a little bit. But these are fantastic cars, fantastic second cars. It obviously has done quite a few miles, but the motor's been rebuilt. Previously, sort of in the last 6 months or so, because it was developing that front end knock, which is commonly the lower arms, the ball joints on the front lower arms, or the drop links, because it was sort of getting near the MOT. This is before the motor started making a noise. I did the front lower arms, both front lower arms and drop links before kind of this rebuild. So, you know, although this car's high mileage, it's battery lease, so if there's a fault with the battery, Renault get to fix it. The motor's been rebuilt, the front suspension's all been done, so literally all the common stuff's been done. And a car like this, so in the winter, this will still do 120 miles range on a full charge. In the summer, you might get 150, 160 miles out of it, something like that. So as a second car, fantastic. It doesn't have DC rapid charging, because none do at this age with a Zoe, but being a ZE40, a really usable car. I think they make great second cars. I'm very tempted to try and sell it to my mum, because I think it's pretty cool. These ones obviously, also being the ZE40, had the 5-star Euro NCAP safety rating as well. I think they're great, to be honest. But I guess we'll see what happens when I try and sell it, see if anyone else thinks it's any good. But yeah, I hope that's interesting. Any comments, let me know. And also, just to let you know, I've just started channel membership. So basically, producing free videos just for general content is fine. I'm just recording what I do. But where I have to go out of the way to sort of pay for information or do something that's more time consuming, it's just not viable to just make it a free video. So I've started channel membership. It's really, really cheap. It's literally as cheap as you can possibly make it on YouTube. It's things like priority chat, there's community only chat, and then there's some member only videos. So if you're interested in more of the sort of how-to stuff or actually technical information on the Zoe, stuff that you have to pay to access, you know, sort of like what fluids to use, what products I recommend, that kind of stuff, they're going to be in member only videos. So yeah, check out the link in the description, and yeah, catch you later. Cheers.